Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today is August 24th, 2024. My name is Timothy Langley. In today's briefing, our fourth in a series, I want to talk about Japan's government procurement market. Specifically, I'll provide an overview of how government procurement in Japan presents significant business opportunities for non-Japanese companies and what steps need to be followed to tap into these opportunities. Let's go ahead and dive in. Let's begin by going over the public procurement market in Japan and discuss its scale. To set the stage, the Cabinet Secretariat holds semi-regular meetings, typically 1 to 2 years apart, to review and discuss the ongoing measures related to government procurement. The latest of these meetings was held just this past June, where a significant document was presented. The government's procurement results, now updated with the latest data from 2022. This fresh data sheds light on the effectiveness and impact of recent procurement strategies. It's important to note that the figures in this document pertain to the Japanese central government, excluding local municipalities and public works-related procurement, such as design and consulting services. With that in mind, let's take a closer look at one of the figures from this document, showcasing the total government procurement amount and the total number of procurement contracts. As illustrated here, as of 2022, the total procurement amount reached approximately 2,617 billion yen, or around $18 million. This was covering a total of 17,290 contracts. What's particularly noteworthy is that both the total procurement amount and the number of contracts have seen significant increases since 2017, all within just a 5-year period, despite the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. This upward trend suggests that as the Japanese government continues to pursue active fiscal policies, the already expanding procurement market is likely to grow even further in coming years. Many in our audience might be curious, how are foreign companies and services represented in these figures? Given the language barriers and the limited availability of information in English, it can often seem like Japan's government procurement market is somewhat closed off to non-Japanese companies. However, we want to assure you that that is not the case. In fact, Japan's government procurement process is actually becoming increasingly accessible to foreign businesses, providing more opportunities than ever before for international participation. Let's have a look at this figure showing the share of foreign goods and services procured by the Japanese government. The numbers are quite telling. Foreign goods and services accounted for 11.5% of the total procurement value and 12.3% of the total number of contracts. In other words, more than 1/10 of these procurements were sourced from outside Japan. What's even more impressive is that both the monetary value and the number of contracts for foreign goods and services have more than doubled since 2019. This growth highlights the increasing presence of non-Japanese companies in Japan's government procurement market, underscoring their growing importance to the Japanese economy. One notable example of the Japanese government utilizing foreign companies' services is when Amazon and Google were selected to provide services for Japan's government information cloud. Despite the presence of domestic cloud service providers, the government chose these international companies. Although the digital agency did not disclose the names of the companies that lost, it's likely that AWS and Google competed against powerful domestic players like Fujitsu, Hitachi, and NEC. This decision underscores the openness of Japan's government market, demonstrating its accessibility to non-Japanese businesses. Companies like Amazon and Google can compete directly with formidable domestic competitors in Japan, largely due to the country's obligations under international treaties, specifically the rules of the World Trade Organization. The World Trade Organization, the WTO, which has around 140 member countries worldwide, sets agreements that all members must follow, such as those concerning tariffs under the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT. However, some agreements are voluntary and include only countries that choose to participate. The Government Procurement Agreement, the GPA, falls into this voluntary category. In essence, the GPA requires that in government procurement, countries must not discriminate between domestic and foreign companies. They cannot favor their own businesses over foreign ones. Notably, only 22 countries, including Japan, are part of this agreement. Out of the approximately 140 WTO member countries, these 22 have committed to these rules, highlighting Japan's openness in its government procurement market and its commitment to the international community. As a result, Japanese government organizations must follow established international rules for large tenders above a certain threshold. These rules are updated every 2 years and vary depending on the category of the tender notice and the issuing entity. There are significant differences between tenders that fall within the WTO GPA regime and those that do not. WTO tender notices are accompanied by an English language summary, while non-NTO tenders are not. Additionally, in the case of contracting issues, non-WTO tenders offer less protection against unfair treatment and fewer avenues for redress. That being said, the commitment to a level playing field extends to all evaluation processes all over the Japanese government procurement bids. Now, let's delve into the main topic of the presentation, the process behind the government procurement. In order to maintain fairness and transparency, the government conducts its procurement of goods and services through a bidding process across all ministries and agencies. As you can imagine, participating in any government procurement process requires a solid understanding of the procedures involved, and Japan is no exception. As a first step, in order to engage in Japan's government procurement, you must understand the process. As simple as it may sound, it's important to emphasize that this process can vary greatly from what you're trying to sell and who you're trying to sell it to. Step number 2, if necessary, you must go through qualifications or pre-qualification assessments before bidding. Generally speaking, companies must acquire a qualification applicable for all ministries and agencies in order to participate in bidding open to the public. Depending on the tender notice, assessments can also range from stringent to more lenient depending on the situation. Once you pass this stage, you move on to step 3, and your proposal will be evaluated based on various criteria. Sometimes it's purely based on price, while other times it may consider both price and performance. After this thorough evaluation, the contract winner is finally determined. The simplified process I just outlined applies broadly to any procurement. Moving forward, let me briefly introduce the 3 main procurement methods used by all ministries and agencies in Japan. The first and most common method is by open tendering. If you look at the chart, the blue section represents open tendering by amount. The next method is selective tendering. As you can see, the share of selective tendering is quite small, almost negligible in terms of both amount and number of cases. Finally, there's limited tendering, also known as single tendering. In terms of amount, limited tendering accounts for about 33% in recent years, which gives it significant weight. For companies, including non-Japanese ones that possess high-level technical capabilities, this can represent a valuable opportunity. Now, let's go over each procurement method and see how they differ from each other. As I mentioned earlier, open tendering is the standard bidding process, and here's how it works. First, the bidding information is publicly announced for everyone to see, allowing any company to submit a bid with no limit on the number of bidders. In this open competitive bidding process, the contract is awarded to the company that offers the lowest price. While this may seem straightforward, there are some key points to consider. The government sets a price range known as the floor price and the ceiling price, although these figures are not disclosed to the bidders. The contract is then awarded to the company that offers the lowest bid within this price range. That is the essence of the open bidding process. Selective tendering, as I mentioned earlier, is an exceptional method, used in a very small percentage of cases when open tendering is deemed unsuitable for specific reasons. And here's how this one works. First, the procurement authority identifies and pre-selects companies that meet certain criteria required for the bid. This method limits the number of potential bidders to those who fulfill these pre-established requirements. These pre-selected companies will then be the only ones who are invited to submit their bids. These companies can be evaluated not just based on price, but also on various other factors such as environmental friendliness, technical expertise, or other project-specific criteria as an example. The bids are assessed based on a combination of price and these additional factors. In other words, the procurement authority seeks the best offer, meaning it considers more than just the lowest price. The process ensures that the selected bid meets the necessary technical and quality standards while also offering a competitive price. This procurement method is typically used when the government needs to procure highly technical services or products. In these cases, only companies with the necessary technical expertise are pre-selected and allowed to bid, making this a restricted process. So if a company, such as Company C in the example shown to the right, is not pre-selected, it does not have the opportunity to bid, as it does not meet the initial qualifications required. At last, we have limited or single tendering. This procurement method is used in approximately 30% of the cases. This method is applied when the procurement involves highly specialized technology or unique requirements that only one entity can fulfill. This entity is not necessarily a Japanese company because it can be a foreign company as well. And unlike in the other methods, the competitive bidding is not a part of this process. What's interesting about limited or single tendering is that although it accounts for only about 20% of contracts by number, it represents about 33% of the total procurement value. This indicates that the contracts awarded through this method are typically of higher value. In other words, large-scale projects are often handled via limited tendering. In this process, negotiations are conducted directly with the single pre-selected company. Through discussions, a mutually agreed-upon price is established, resulting in a direct, negotiated transaction rather than a competitive bidding process. This approach allows for more tailored agreements in cases where only one entity is capable of fulfilling the contract requirements. In other words, this is a one-on-one process, so there's no competitive bidding involved. This method is typically used for specific cases, such as highly technical defense assets, where only one company is capable of manufacturing the required product. The three procurement methods that I've now presented can be further subdivided into many specific bidding approaches. One such example is the procurement through technical dialogue. In most cases, there is no interaction between bidders and the government before the bidding process, except in the case of limited tendering. Bidding information is made available, but communication about it does not typically occur to ensure fairness in the bidding process. However, in the case of the procurement through technical dialogue, the process starts with a technical discussion. And here's how that works. The process begins with a dialogue between the government and the potential bidder. This dialogue helps to clarify and refine the technical requirements and specifications needed for the procurement. Based on this dialogue, the government will then develop a detailed specification document. This document outlines what is needed and what will best meet the government's needs, reflecting insight gained from the dialogue. With the refined specifications in hand, the bidding process proceeds. Bidders are expected to respond to these detailed specifications, which were developed through earlier technical dialogue. This approach is particularly useful when the government recognizes that private companies may have more expertise in certain technical areas. While this method is still relatively rare and considered a trial phase, it is expected to become more common in the future. Participating actively in such processes can be a significant opportunity for businesses to engage with the government procurement in a more informed and effective way. Of course, when it comes to government procurement, not every process runs smoothly from the announcement of bidding information to the final decision. Japan is obviously no exception to this. So what will happen if nobody wins the bidding procedure? Here are two common issues that can occur. Number one is an unsuccessful bid. Unsuccessful bids can occur when a government agency announces a tender, but due to factors such as the proposed price, schedule, or distance, it is not economically viable, leading to no participants in the bid. The second case might be a failed bid. This occurs when all submitted bids fall outside the established price range. As mentioned earlier, the government sets a price range with a ceiling price and a floor price. If every bid exceeds the ceiling price or falls below the floor price, then no bids are within the acceptable range. In such cases, the bid is considered a failed bid, and the process does not result in a successful contract. These situations can occur for several reasons, including the conditions set by the government agency are unrealistically low, making it unprofitable for participants to bid or to win. Or the bid announcement is for a location that is too far away geographically. So if that's the case, what happens next? If the bidding process fails, here's what typically happens. A revised tender is issued. The government will usually adjust the price range, either raising or lowering the floor price or the ceiling price, and restart the bidding process. This adjustment aims to align the procurement with the market conditions and attract viable bids. Otherwise, they could have a continued failure. If the revised tender also fails, meaning that the second round of bidding still does not yield acceptable results, the process generally shifts to limited single tendering. In this scenario, the government will negotiate directly with a single company to reach a contract agreement. This approach is often used when the competitive bidding process has not been successful in securing a suitable offer. So as you can imagine, new opportunities can arise at any time, whether through a brand new tender or through revised ones. And in some cases, a failed bidding process may even lead to your company being directly contacted for negotiation. So in conclusion, whether you are a large or small foreign company, Japan's procurement market offers substantial business opportunities due to its potential growth. This trend is likely to continue, making the Japanese government procurement market an increasingly active field for foreign companies. To take advantage of these opportunities, it's crucial to have a solid understanding of the procurement process and to have assistance from experts. Here at Langley Esquire, we are committed to supporting you in effectively navigating this market and winning contracts when you need it the most. Finally, to reiterate, Japan's public procurement market is not closed. It is open and accessible. Japan's commitment to international agreements such as the WTO Government Procurement Agreement underpins this openness. We believe that foreign companies can find significant opportunities in Japan's market, and we are here to help you succeed. Thank you very much for your attention. Please join us next month for our next policy deep dive on September 26th.